So I don't want you to focus so much on solving problems. I just came back from a coffee chat with a stranger and totally lit me up. This guy's been in his craft for over 30 years and just the kindred spirit, right? I've always been kind of the one who runs with people several years older than me. And I told him the same thing I tell a lot of people. And it is a mentality that I came to a lot later in life that has served me so well. And I think if I just share it with you, it will be useful to you. So let me get to the point and then I can just kind of go until my intuition tells me I've said what I need to say. And the point is, people are so fixated on solving problems that I think it creates this level of misery. And it's not a universal thing, but something that helped me so much instead of needing the outcome, setting the target and hitting it, even feeling good about something was this idea of playing with the problem rather than solving the problem. And the way I described it a lot, and this is a really good example, right? Being on camera and all that sort of stuff. I really started taking to it, and I'll tell you, what kept me kind of miserable with it. When I started thinking of it as like, this is not something I need to be good at. This is a Rubik's Cube I want to solve. And right now, I am just messing with colors and have no actual plan. I am kind of seeing a few of the boxes of the same color on one side, and I'm like, sweet. And then I make a couple actions, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm even further back than when I started. And it's just all of this continuation of, man, if I really need this to provide something for me quickly, I'm either gonna quit, I'm gonna despise it, and do it infrequently. I am going to get resentful. Like, what served me so much better with this and just feels more natural, and I'll talk about that in a second, is the idea that I want to play with this problem. I want to not even necessarily get good at being on YouTube or producing videos. I want to play with it so much that it's fun to play with. And I think that is one of the biggest absences in most people's lives is their just ability to give themselves permission to play, right? A few days ago, my son got a Lego set and you just watch how he processes it, right? Like me as an adult, every set comes with instructions and all that. And I know I'm like, oh, this is more like kind of a flow state, right? Kind of the mindless thing to where there's enough challenge, but it's a measurable challenge in that, oh, I have to look for the right piece at the right time. But the book's going to tell me that it's not really a problem to solve. It's just a series of actions because, you can always go back to the instruction book. And then there's just kind of that beauty. What's really cool about Legos, by the way, now that was not the case when I was a kid, is like all through the set. And I was too poor to buy sets, but so maybe this has been the case the whole time, but indulge me, is that all throughout is like there are little things that kind of make the process enjoyable. For instance, we built some Ninja Turtle figurines out of Lego, and the cool part is you put a pizza inside of their belly, basically, which means it's unseen. But during the process, you're like, oh, he's eating pizza. You know what I mean? So it's kind of fun in that regard. But just those elements, like we don't give ourselves permission to play. And because we are so outcome focused, and it is so constrained, it is so, this is what we need exactly right now kind of thing, that we don't actually give ourselves the opportunity to discover something more fun, cooler, better, right? And it comes down to this idea of it's the ability to play with a problem, I think gives it space to yield something amazing, right? When you are so solution and outcome focused, and this is ask, like, think of even a conversation you had this week, right? Maybe you got a little bit vulnerable with somebody. Maybe you gave them a hint of like, here's what I'm going through, here's a problem I'm trying to solve. Without asking you a question, they will immediately say, have you tried this? Maybe you should do this. You know what? I did this, it worked great. They don't care, right? Because they care way more about I want to be a solver, right? Of course they wouldn't admit this. People love being heroes. And in doing so, it is immediately like, nope, we've given this thing no space. We have no clue if that's the best outcome. It's just an outcome. The person who's being like, if you were vulnerable with somebody and they immediately jumped into advice, first of all, they didn't ask if you were ready to receive it. And you're probably not going to do it because it doesn't excite you, or because, great, that works for them, or I don't understand it and so I feel inferior. Like, you're just going to be placed in this inactive state, having wasted some time talking about the problem and immediately placing a solution in front, just any solution. And that is, I don't want to be construed as don't solve your problems. I'm saying the more space you create for it, I think the better outcome. And just mindset wise, I cannot tell you how long I spent in this content world, as an example, when I say a Rubik's Cube I want to solve, being like, oh, how do I write better hooks? Oh, how do I reverse engineer that person's script, right? To the point where, like, I was creating templates in Notion about how I would want to prep for a video, right? To where I was actually judging myself and saying, if you just press record and speak from the heart and what you believe, you're fucking it up. To come full circle and say, man, I have a script that I think is banging. I don't even care if I nail that. It doesn't feel like me, right? And so I had eliminated something that could be very fun. Content is expression, right? So if you're using content for purely business or machine-like purposes, it probably doesn't feel great, does it? Right? And this is not about content. This is about anything. If you're running your business with only, like, it perfect example happens all the time with everybody is, we need to scale. Okay, I want you to scale. Do you want to scale, or do you need to? And where is that need based in? And who told you that? And was that something like that you've always known? Is it the rules of engagement? All that kind of stuff. Like, we're so willing to just put rules on top of ourselves to do something well. And I am in argument that that's not impossible, but that there's just no space for something better. And it is the same thing when someone sets the goal and they commit to the goal and they're disciplined, and so they reach the goal, and then they get there and they're like, why doesn't this feel better? Because they were so involved with one possibility that they had no space to play and discover new ones and more interesting ones and whatever. And there is, I'm sitting here in front of you trying to understand even my own personal experience, why I felt that for so long, and why we have perfectly segmented people into these labels of like, well, if they're talking like me, that you should play more and just go with the flow and have fun with it. that I'm a woo woo crazy person and not really business serious. And that if they're talking on this other side where it's P&Ls and revenue targets and efficiencies and optimizations and all that sort of stuff, then they don't have any soul. And it's like we are multi-dimensional, multidisciplinary. We are unique and interesting individuals, and we're not saying it's one or the other. Yet the whole world around us just feels so much like this, and it is in my mind all attached to the end. What do I need? What outcome am I going for? What possibility can I imagine? And then I'll shoot for that. And that is, I think, kind of the root of why we don't play as much. Because what play essentially is just palms up saying, I'm willing to try something and have no effing clue where it goes. Right. So it's even kind of a misnomer when I say this is a Rubik's Cube I want to solve. I don't actually want to solve it. This is a Rubik's Cube I want to keep enjoying learning about. Right. Do you have that in your life? Any version of it? It doesn't have to be content and being on camera, right? Like something you're probably hearing if you are a business owner and maybe you've been doing it this way for a while is these buzzwords of personal brand. Now, I've got nothing against personal brand, albeit it is a label, but like how to build a profitable personal brand, how to use founder-led content, how to blah blah blah, how to, right? And we are of this. It is just this flywheel of misunderstanding. Um, and I say this from experience. Like I got on the flywheel and I was like, oh man, I believe this hook, but it'll never work. So I just, well, I'll use this one. Right. Um, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. But you can spot like, okay, that was made with the hook in mind. And I totally get it. If the hook isn't good, if the thumbnail isn't good, will they watch it? Will they not? There's no use in making great content if they don't watch it. I say there's no use in making content that's good if you don't believe it. Or that if someone if if someone could give you something better and you then wouldn't do this. I'm now finally at the point having been completely misguided on I need to be a solver rather than a creator. I need to be um, professional rather than an artist. I need to produce rather than experience and discover, to just to the point of being like so rudimentary first principles thinking of saying my first principle to say anything is I better fucking believe it. If I am going to take the risk of putting myself online and having something to say, it better stand up to my personal standard. And so the last thing I am doing right now, if you are in this position, is saying you suck. Nope, you don't. You don't. It is that is what's been made available to you. And there are so many elements of where it is just the loudest voice in the room, right? Something you'll see on YouTube a lot, or at least filters into my algorithm still less and less now because I don't really do this or subscribe to it anymore, is where someone like a YouTuber will take a high profile figure, let's say like a Warren Buffett or something, and they will then try and look at his whole life and all that sort of stuff. And I think biographies are amazing, but there's just where it like tips over the line into being unhelpful. And they will look at all of his stuff and then try and reverse engineer it. They'll go backwards and be like, and now you can use that for your portfolio and you can use that for your investment strategy. And you could, I'm not saying Warren Buffett didn't have a strategy. I'm saying Warren Buffett is uniquely him. Warren Buffett has a standard. Warren Buffett doesn't doesn't look at what will work or not work. I mean, obviously, those are considerations, but they are below what is my intuition telling me to do right now? Because a lot of the stuff he did, and I'm not a Warren Buffett expert, but a lot of the stuff he did at the time he was doing it was revolutionary because no one was really thinking that way before. And you don't create a revolution of something amazing for yourself by saying, let me reverse engineer somebody else's plan. You can take absolute inspiration from it. Like I've said numerous times in videos, I love biographies. I feel like I'm in the room with the person. But the 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 point of a biography, or the point of looking at someone's journey and their success and all that sort of stuff, is not saying, how can I do that? It is, if in its purest sense, it is the best permission slip in the world to say, there are people on this earth who don't let things stand in the way of what they believe in. What does that mean for me? It's possible. I know it's possible. I'm seeing them do it. Okay, I'm not Warren Buffett, but what does his journey mean for me in terms of how do I not let things stand in the way from my full conviction, what I believe in, hitting my potential, right? You need space for that. You need space to understand it. The most common form of despair is not knowing who you are. Every time you are using somebody else's success or somebody else's strategy or whatever as the blueprint and doctrine for how your life should be led, you are withholding your chance at knowing who you are. You're placing more emphasis on what can this random thing that I haven't actually thought more about give me so I can avoid learning who I am, would be the brutal way of saying that. And I did this for so long. So if you think I'm judging you, that you're feeling this way, no, fucking no. But what I am saying is that it is, if you pay enough attention, it is pretty clear that imitating somebody else, looking for solace in someone else, spending any time avoiding self-discovery to find the thing that's working is a missed opportunity. It is saying, you know what? I bought the Rubik's Cube. Now solve it for me. Right? It is saying, I like books, so I'm going to prompt AI to write one for me, and I can put my name on at the end of it. It is the process. It is the process that makes it beautiful. By simply playing with a problem, it is not saying you are guaranteed to find an amazing solution. But what you are guaranteed, if you play with a problem rather than need it to be solved, is discovering more about who you are, how you behave, what you believe in, what you are willing to pay the ultimate price for and still do anyway. It's called a core value. And in so doing, shape your identity in a way that is not only of service to you, because you won't be in despair because you know who you are, but by demonstrating that much self-trust, by saying, I have full conviction in what I'm doing as I'm doing it, for who I'm doing it. By doing that, you will inspire others. Where do you think these biographies come from? No one wrote a biography about someone trying to be somebody else. They wrote a biography about someone who went their own way. And you do not discover that by copying somebody else. Emerson said, imitation is suicide. Something, and I don't know why this is hitting me now. It's just, it's entering my head and it feels applicable. When I was in my 20s, I had just started an agency, a marketing agency with two other guys. And it was the classic, hey, we've all been in the marketing world for a while. We actually had all worked together at another agency, and the owner was very unethical, like, not paying taxes so he could buy a BMW, as an example. Not great, right? And so at that time, we all bounced elsewhere. We all went somewhere else because we're like, this is untenable here. And I didn't even know the full story while I was there. I was just like, I can't reach my full potential here. I'm off. And I was very much in my 20s, like, what the hell do I want? Oh, the grass is always greener, blah, 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 naive as hell. Yeah. Um, Long story short, we all take sabbatical to other businesses and companies and stuff. And then we decided to start our own. And it was one of these things where I was a project manager and had managed something like 700, 800 clients at that point in my career. And these other two guys were salespeople. And just through working together, what I slowly learned about myself was that there is really no, I learned this the hard way. I burned out tremendously by saying yes to too much. But I think what contributed even more to it was I was so distracted by solving every little thing. Everything was urgent. Everything required my attention. Yes, I was the most qualified person to do it. And yes, I didn't fully trust other people to do it. And I didn't want to spend time double checking their work or whatever it was. But I had very little interest, at least the things that lit me up during that time were when we would start something new that I had an interest in and I was allowed to play, right? How we did content. I pretty much had total autonomy on how to manage clients. And so when you what I'm saying is when you take the mentality of I get to play with this problem because I'm interested in it. And life's too short to spend much time on anything you're not interested in unless it's serving a larger interest, right? You can do something for a short amount of time knowing that it's going to serve a larger interest. But it was always the things that held my interest, that felt like a sandbox I could play in, that produced the best results. And none of those results ever came predetermined. Hey, if I play a lot, I'm going to get this. No, right? And one of the things that once I started, gaining some leadership skills and putting my ego to the side and understanding the true values of building a business. To me, it's relationships and what are relationships, what's the food for a relationship is trust, right? We were selling the same damn thing as like thousands of agencies in the United States. And at least the people selling that particular service were averaging, client relationships of like 6 to 8 months. And my average client relationship was 5.2 years selling the same freaking thing. Right. So the value is in the trust and the relationship and like getting to know them. But I'm saying all that to say, I built that trust my way and I was interested in building the trust, right? I by simply having more interest in retention and working with people I wanted to work with than acquiring, which was everybody else. And everybody else had their own freaking way to do it. And they were going online talking about it. And obviously they were marketing themselves and saying, you need our lead gen strategy, or you need this, or, don't do organic. Ads are where it's at. Hey, someone equally, don't do ads, organic where it's at. It's just like, do you believe in it or not? Right. And so for me, I was like, all of that stuff doesn't interest me, ads, organic or otherwise. I want to enjoy the people I work with. And so I'm going to put time into that. What would I do with that? Right? How would I do it? And I came up with some pretty unique things by getting to play with the problem. And when I started hiring people and was actually, in the right headspace and qualified and ready for it, this phrase came into my mind, and I've really benefited from it since, was, I help business owners, but this is directed at anybody. If you have a job right now, if you are working for somebody else, and chances are you don't love everything about it, a really good mental shift that helped me, take it if you want, is when I went from this is a place that I need something from to this is a school that pays me and I'm in charge of the curriculum, right? I got an undergrad degree. Student loans are like insane in the United States, right? That was a school I had to pay for, and I got a teaching degree. I don't even use it, right? But what it did teach me was the foundations of being an adult. And I was poor as hell. So like fiscal responsibility on shoestring budgets. Um, to this day, I could live off $5 a week, even with inflation, because I found a way to do that in college for months, years, right? Wouldn't recommend it. It's not a great life, but I could do it. And if you are getting paid and you don't love it, if you can shift your mindset from, this job isn't delivering what I need, even though they're fucking paying you for it, you may not think it's enough. Everything's a choice. Again, not judging you. I was that person. It didn't serve me. That's it. That's all I'm saying is I was someone who every time I needed something from it, or I pigeonholed a solution or said, I'm going to do this because of that, rather than just, I'm going to experience and see what I like about this. I'm going to express myself and see what comes back. I'm going to, spend the most valuable resource I got, which is my time and energy. And I just feel like this is the right thing to do. Let's see what happens. When I dropped all the entitlement and went towards that sentence came in my mind. I'm like, I'm getting paid to fucking learn. What do I want to learn? What do I want to learn? Not just adopt hook, line, and sinker. What do I want to experience and use to my maximum ability? Now, if you're looking in the mirror and you think you're the most selfish person on earth and you don't want to help anybody, yeah, you might use that to evil ends. I'm on earth to serve. And so when I was like, holy shit, I have a place that pays me to learn. What do I want to? I want to learn how to serve people better. I want to learn crazy. I want a Rubik's Cube and I want to start messing with it. No stakes. What do we got? Don't jump so like a problem that isn't solved. Not that great, right? Solve problems. Don't jump to solving problems. Play with the problem. So many things were like accidents, right? Like the freaking Post-it note or whatever. Accident. I'm pretty sure beer was an accident. Like, and speaking of beer, right? Sorry, tangent. I was thinking about this after the coffee chat I had with this person driving over. I was like, man, I really want to tie this in because whether you drink or not, right? Let's just look at objective truths, okay? And around the whole reverse engineering thing, right? You may know everything Warren Buffett did. Chances are you won't, right? You're only getting a partial story because you're not him. You don't see the private moments. You don't see any of that sort of stuff. Whatever it is, if you want to do content, your favorite content creator, if you want to make a ton of money, whoever you're reading or watching right now, whatever it is, you think you've got the steps, and I'll just reverse engineer this, and I'll just get on the horse, and the horse will ride, and I'll end up there, and I'm a hard worker, I'm not lazy, blah blah blah, right? No, right? Because the problem with all that reverse engineering is it's just a bunch of ingredients, right? Even if the ingredients go in a step. You know what's interesting? It is the same thing with beer, wine, whatever. Like I'll focus on beer because I used to brew it in my house back in the day when that was what mattered to me. And in the end, you got a bunch of ingredients. You get a rolling boil. It's called wort, and you just dump ingredients in, right? In certain sequences, right? If you dump in hops early in the boil, that's going to have a lot of influence on the taste. If you dump them in at the end, it's going to have more influence on the aroma, right? And you don't taste it as much. You're going to put malt in right away. It's all about temperatures and timings and all that sort of stuff. In the end, you'll do all of it as prescribed, and it's still not fucking beer. What needs to happen? You need to give it space so it can ferment. You need to give it time. You need to allow it to take its natural course. You need to sit still and observe and listen and think and ask more questions. It's the same thing. And what else is it influenced by? Well, it's influenced by where the ingredients came from, how they were cultivated, right? And I'm not a wine expert, but in wine, it's like, what's the age of the grape? What's the terroir of the grape? What's the altitude? Like all this kind of stuff. It's like all of these things are those little idiosyncrasies that make reverse engineering something pretty fucking, not a waste of your time, but certainly shouldn't be a predominant amount of your time, right? I want you to I want you to give yourself freedom to play. When you play with a problem rather than try and solve, you are switching the master. You are switching the master. When you have a preset solution in mind, then that is a that is an atlas. It's a roadmap, right? Okay, we're here. We're trying to get to here. Checkpoint, checkpoint, checkpoint. We're going to do these things in this order, whatever. You're not learning about the problem. You're just executing upon a solution. The master is the solution. And in so doing, you leave zero potential for a better solution because it was given no space. You're saying we're going to follow this route, this line, and we're going to get to there. Cool. You solved the problem. Nothing wrong with that. There's very little self-discovery in that. To where playing with a problem, making the problem, I shouldn't even say making the problem, making the play the master, that is a fucking sandbox. That is a sandbox. That is, you can build something tall, you can build something wide, you can build something with various tools. You get to throw in ingredients and variables and different timings, and maybe you do it on a sunny day, maybe you do it on a rainy day, whatever it is. You get to do all these different things, and you let the problem speak to you. What does it need? What does the problem need? Not what do you need from the problem. You've created space. And so to wrap this up, I just want to say it is from personal experience, it is a much more fun place to operate in. And if you have this fear of, if I don't have structure, it won't get done, I would just remind you something I said when I left that agency, because I asked myself a simple question: can you reach your full potential here? And the answer was no. Nothing emotional about it. It was just, I knew the answer, and I'm not interested in living a life full of regrets, so I left. But I will tell you the exact same thing I told my partners when they said, okay, well, what's your plan? I was like, I don't have one. And you have 3 young kids. Are you a fucking idiot? You know, they said it in a nicer way, but that was pretty much it. And I was like, no, objectively, everything you're saying is fair. But I do have 2 things. I don't have a plan, but I have 2 things. I have a ton of self-belief, and I know I'm not lazy. And if you have those things, playing with the problem is way more fun and provides way better outcomes, in my experience. You can be really capable and a fantastic integrator, maybe even a bit of visionary, and you can see something and execute on it, and that's amazing. If you put it into a guide, a strategy, a roadmap, or reverse engineer, whatever it may be, you are not creating space. You're saying only this, and that's fine. It's just limiting. And so that's for you to decide. Do you want the solution? Do you want to make the solution the master, or do you want to make play the master? Do you want to achieve or discover? I find there is no shortage of achievement on the discovery side. It just isn't pre-planned. You got to be really comfortable with not knowing. And most people aren't, and I get that. But you got to decide what you want for you. Who's your master? Is it the solution? Is it the play? Is it the achievement? Is it the discovery? Is it completing something? versus truly understanding something. You got to decide that for you. But thanks for watching. Just felt compelled to record that because I say the Rubik's Cube thing a lot. And honestly, from the beginning of this video to the end, I don't even know if that language is proper for what it actually is. But only if you're willing to receive advice, because I don't give advice unless I know someone is ready for it, because otherwise it's just hot air and fucking useless. But if you are ready to receive it, then the advice is simple. Play with the problem. Don't need to solve it. Right? Because any chance we can get to be kids again, fucking take it, man. So, thanks for watching. If you like what you heard, if you are still here, then by all means, subscribe. And I don't know when I'll be doing the next video, but I know I will be doing one. So come around and stick around, and we'll see you next time.